Greetings everyone. Today I'm going to talk about World War stories and the lessons we can learn from them. Let's start off at World War One. In 1915, in an area called Auschwitz in the country Austria, the Germans were struggling to fight against the Russians. They were desperate for any information. Then finally, they found out that the Russians didn't have any gas masks. So they they made a chemical gas which could kill anyone in a 20-meter radius. So so the Russians were currently in a fort in a Auschwitz. So they released the chemical gas in there, which which rusted up the Russians' caliber guns. Most of the Russians were dead, and the Germans started to celebrate. But after the celebration, non five Russian soldiers came out. They looked like dead men. That's why the story earned its title, the dead men. The dead men didn't have any ammo on them, so they pointed their bayonets and chased the German troops out of there. On that day, only seven Russian soldiers chased out 7,000 German troops. They were honored. But only a few survived. It was released in a newspaper, and the headline was "The Dead Men." The lesson we can learn from this is never give up. Okay, now let's move on to World War Two. In World War Two, in 1945, when everyone was trying to kill each other, a man called Tsutomu Yamaguchi survived two nuclear bombings, one in Hiroshima and one in Nagasaki. So, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was designing oil tankers for Hiroshima. So he was sent to a business trip on to Hiroshima. When he was in a field, when he arrived, he was on a field to check the field out. Then he reported that he saw American bombers flying in the sky. So he acted quickly and crouched into a nearby bush. He reported that he saw a magnesium escalate which blinded him. After hours of being unconscious, he woke up and saw that he was covered in third-degree burns. Almost everyone around him was dead. All the crops were burned. Thankfully, he found a railway station which was acting as a hospital for the remaining survivors. He only stayed there for one day, and surprisingly, he went to work the other day. He went back to Nagasaki, where his boss was scolding him because he lost his co-workers in the bombing. Then he reported that he saw outside the window. He saw that same American bomber, and he didn't have any place to hide. So when the magnesium escalate came in, he was thrown to the wall. After, Thankfully, this time he only suffered a few cuts and bruises. He was so angry and so confused that he even ignored his boss's cries and pleas for help. Then he went. Then he went to his house where he was very happy that his wife and kids were harmless. He collapsed right then and there. After a week of being in a coma, he woke up to the Japanese crying and pleading. It was because the Japanese had finally surrendered to the US. You may think that the bombing actually reduced his lifespan, Tsutomu's lifespan, but actually it increased it somehow. He lived up to 93 years, but the same could not be said to his children and his wife. His child died at the age of 53 due to radiation. He was exposed to it as a child. His wife died of stomach cancer because of exposure to the bomb. He also died at the age of 93 due to stomach cancer. I would like to ask a question to you. Was it really important to kill 2 million people? Thank you.